Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of News You Can Use. I'm your host, Thera Martin Milling, and we are delighted to be back with you once again for a brand new season of great programs right here at LaSalle TV 56 and at Verizon Channel 36. So, as we begin our first show today, I want you to know that we are going to spotlight most of this show to a discussion around the housing industry, what's going on in Pennsylvania with housing. Do we still have to be concerned about the foreclosure issue, or are things sort of backing away a little bit on that foreclosure piece? Is now a good time to buy or to sell, or what should we do if we're a first-time home buyer? What should we be looking for? Those are some of the things that we will touch on as we talk to, I call him the real estate guru, Mr. Trent Pettis, who happens to own his own real estate business, Integrity Real Estate. So we'll talk to Trent Pettis for much of the show today, but then, we would not have a News You Can Use if we didn't have Dr. Donnie Patterson with us from Einstein Medical Center. So she will be along before we close out, and she'll share some important health information with us. We'll be back in just a moment to get this show started right. Back here we go, and glad to be with you. If you just turned your television set on, we want you to know that we've got Trent Pettis in the studio with us. He is a real estate guru, and I'm your host of the show, Thera Martin Milling. Glad to have you with us on News You Can Use. Welcome back, Trent.
Thank you, Thera. It's always glad to be here.
You were on my first show 3 years ago, like
Absolutely.
when I first started doing a show here. And all this time, and it's my fault that you didn't get back here, but I'm glad to have you today.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Yes,
glad
indeed.
To be here.
You are my friend, and you are the expert on real estate. And I just want to know, first of all, how's the foreclosure thing going in Pennsylvania? Are people who have homes who've been sort of struggling doing a little better nowadays, or what?
I think they're doing better. I think there were so many people. At one point, there was just a flood of people who were facing foreclosure or actually in foreclosure. I mean, the process had already begun. And I think it's a lot of banks. At one point, banks were not really working well with people. You know, they were asking, the borrowers were seeking loan modifications and other forms of relief, and so many borrowers were turned down. But I think at some point, the government got more involved, and the banks got a little better, and they were giving a little bit more loan. They were giving out more loan modifications, and they were helping more people save their homes. The government came up with some other programs. So the answer to the question is yes, I think it's a lot better, but it's not where we need it to be. And Pennsylvania is a little unique in some ways, because we have a program through the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency that helps homeowners as well. So it's a little better. It's a lot better, I would think.
But for those people who do still get that envelope, that dreaded envelope in the mail that says your house is under threat of foreclosure or is in foreclosure, and they haven't been taking any steps. They know this mail is coming, and they're just thinking, I'm going to catch it up next month. I'm going to double up next month, and then something else happens in their life, and they can't double up.
Right.
But meanwhile, they haven't called the mortgage company to say anything, and they're getting these envelopes in the mail that say threat of foreclosure.
Mistake. Big mistake. If
you got to face the music.
You have to face. Listen, if you don't do something about it, it only gets worse. It will not get better if you're not paying your mortgage. You're not making your mortgage payments each month, and you know you're not. One, if you aren't paying and you know you can't pay, call your lender in advance. Perhaps they can work something out before the payment's late. Some could do that. There are a lot of different programs through different lenders, and they may be willing. They can take payments and put it on the back end. There are things that they could do. If you have a loan, a conventional mortgage in Pennsylvania, that you can go through a program called HEMAP, the Homeowners Emergency Mortgage Assistance Program, through the Pennsylvania Finance, Pennsylvania Finance, I'm going to the PHFA, Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. That's what it is. Say it 10 times real fast. And so if you know you are behind, the one thing you cannot do is not open the mail and not take calls from the mortgage company. That is suicidal. I mean, it will only get worse. More fees will incur you know, eventually an attorney will send you a complaining mortgage foreclosure, and your property will be going into share sale. So you have to take proactive steps. Don't just think it's going to go away, because it will not.
Now, if things get so far that
Right.
you're getting that letter that says sheriff's sale, is it too late?
No, no. I mean, there's still
still some
again,
hope.
there's
Okay.
still hope. It depends on the value. Sometimes for instance, we'll have people who, let's say you owe the mortgage company $100,000, but your house is worth $150,000. Well, in some cases, you sell it. You pay off that $100,000. You're still walking away with money after you pay commission and other fees, transfer taxes, and things of that sort. So, and you may have to just start over. You may have to go to an apartment, but you have some cash.
Yes.
So you don't want to get to the point where the house is being sold and you've got equity in the house. So, you know, you should come see someone like me, or go to a housing. You know, we have lots of really good
Northwest Counseling
Northwest.
Agency.
I used to work at Northwest years
Brown.
ago.
That's
Right.
my
There are
buddy.
a lot of good housing agencies, HUD-approved housing counseling agencies in the city. They're all over. So go see them. But you just can't do anything.
Nothing, right.
Doing nothing will only make the situation more dire than what it is. So absolutely, there's always hope. And then of course, bankruptcy is always a last resort. And I believe it should be absolutely the last resort. But you can save your home by filing for bankruptcy protection, federal bankruptcy protection. So you don't necessarily have to lose it. Sometimes it's best to let it go. If you know you can't pay it, and someone gives you some relief temporarily, but you're going to be in the same position 3 months down the road, maybe you need to look at the other options.
Yeah,
Sometimes
make yourself crazy. Right.
Exactly. Sometimes it's better to let it go.
Well, hopefully people who are in that situation, you're taking heed to the information that Trent Pettis is sharing right now. To lose your home, I would imagine, is a very, very hurtful thing.
It is.
And I was almost there a few years ago, and it was very scary, and thank God I knew good people like a Trent Pettis and a Mike Brown from Northwest Counseling who were able to walk me and talk me through it, and there was a lot of steps to it and a lot of information and things that I had to come up with
Exactly.
to convince the lenders, all right, give her
We're gonna
another
give it
chance.
a chance.
You
But
know,
also,
so thank God.
boy, my mind went blank. I'm sorry. I was going to say there's still life after foreclosure, even if you lose your home, which I think can be devastating. But for some people, is a relief. Some people, I mean, there are people out there who are struggling, and they're in houses that are underwater. That means they owe more than the house is worth.
Oh, God.
And they're struggling to make payments. Things happen. You lose jobs. You lose hours. You know, you go through divorce. All kinds of things that just mean that you may have to get out of that situation. And sometimes, losing a home is not the end of the world.
Yes.
You can come back eventually and get another house.
Sure.
And sometimes you may just have to go into an apartment for a while, but there is life after foreclosure. It's not the end of the road. I mean, you can come back into the home buying process eventually. So, when people get to that point, you want to think that, hey, now there's no hope. There's still hope. There's always hope.
Okay. Now, what about that first-time home buyer?
Yeah.
What kind of advice in about 3 minutes can you give us that to somebody who's first time out, trying to buy a house, and they are clueless? They just know they want a house.
I would say first, there are great home buyer seminars all over town. We do a lot in our office. A lot of the counseling agencies do them as well. Go to one, and they're all over the city. They're usually free, and so you can learn about the whole process, the home buying process from start to finish. But so you want to make sure, I would say, look at your credit, pull your credit report, because if you're going to make a major purchase like a home, then you want to make sure your credit is correct. Make sure that there aren't errors on your credit report. So if there are, someone can tell you how to correct that.
Clean that up.
And make sure you save a little bit of money. You don't need a lot of money if you're buying a house, because most home buyers end up with with the FHA insured mortgage, which means you're putting 3.5% down. So you figure if you're putting 3.5% down on, let's say, a $100,000 house, that's $3,500. Well, that's it. And then you've got closing costs, but the seller can give you up to 6% of the closing costs to help you purchase a home. Your closing costs are probably only about 7%, which would be another $7,000. But if you're getting 6 from the seller, and you've got $3,500, so you need $45. But then there are also programs through the city, the $500 grant through the city of Philadelphia, and some other grants that may be available, so you could even cut that down. So it's not that expensive if you think about it. I mean, if you were going to get an apartment, you have to put a first, last, and security on a $800 or $900 a month apartment. That could be, almost $3,000. So, but you are building equity, and owning a home I believe is the best investment you can ever make
Right.
because real estate typically goes up in value.
Are there particular things that a new
You should be looking
homeowner or
for?
first-time home should look for as
Well-
they're checking out all these houses and getting excited?
Oh, well, one, when you come to a person like me, we're going to sit down and we're going to first make sure you're pre-approved before we take you out. And we're going to make sure, because you want to get a pre-approval for a couple of reasons. One, to make sure a bank or mortgage company, credit union is willing to lend you money. And two, to find out exactly how much they're willing to lend you, because you don't want to look at a $100,000 house when
you
you only
can't
approve
afford
for a $75,000 house.
Okay.
So you want to do that, and then once you find that house, there are a lot of what we call contingencies in the agreement of sale for like a home inspection contingency. So first-time home buyers always want to get a home inspection, and that's where most deals will survive or die, because once that home inspector goes through, it's a visual inspection, and the home inspector's going on the roof, he's looking at all the major components of the house, the heater, and they're looking at everything, and their job is really to rip their house apart. And then you go back and negotiate those repairs or money to make repairs. But you're going to be protected along the way if you're working with a realtor, because that's the job of that real estate agent. And there are other contingencies in there to keep, because you're putting down a deposit, for instance.
Right.
You're putting down what we call an earnest money to show good faith, to show a seller that you're serious. And so if you just decide to walk away, you would lose that money.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you next. Do you lose your money if you walk away from the
If
deal?
if you just
Oh,
walk away
gosh.
and you just woke up one morning there and said, I decided I don't want to buy this house. Well, yeah, you would lose it. But if you did a home inspection, you say, I didn't like the results of this home inspection, I want out of this agreement. Well, you could get out. Or the appraisal, the bank sends an appraiser out. The appraiser's job is to determine the value. If it's an FHA insured mortgage, it has to appraise for the purchase price. So if you're talking a $100,000 house, the appraiser has to come in and say this house is worth at least $100,000. If it's less, you could get out, and you're always entitled to your money based on whatever these contingencies are.
Can you have your own appraiser also? Like, say you don't trust the bank or the lenders.
No.
You're not sure that they're.
No.
No?
You have your own home inspection.
Yes.
Inspector, but not your own appraiser. The bank sends out an appraiser. And it's actually not even the bank. Now, because after the mortgage foreclosure crisis, they passed new legislation. So banks have to actually go through a third party, a management company. And the management company now hires the appraiser. So the appraiser and the bank cannot have any kind of communication, because what was happening, the banks were telling the appraiser what the value they needed. And so that's how we kept getting houses going up and up and up. Appraisers were appraising houses at any rate because they wanted to continue to get the money get the business from the bank. Because if I'm the appraiser and I believe this house is worth 90, but the contract is for 100, and I come back and say 90, then the deal may die. So the bank may not give me any more business.
Right.
So you just say it's worth 100, even though you believe it's only worth 90. And we saw a lot of that, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. Very interesting. We're talking with Trent Pettis, and he is a real estate guru. That's what I call him. He owns his own business called Integrity Real Estate, and that name, Integrity, speaks to what you stand for and what you're about. All of your agents that work with you, all of the representatives that work under the name Integrity Real Estate, good people, honest people who really care. You're not just trying to sell any old property.
Absolutely.
You want to make sure that things are right.
Right, and listen, I don't care about commissions. Commissions will come. If you do the business right, referrals will come and you will eat. But if you're only concerned about money, this is the wrong business. Because I want to be your real estate agent for life.
Yeah.
I don't want one, because how I survived and have done well in this business is from referrals. And from you and a lot of other good friends.
Yes.
And if you don't treat people right, and people know
It
whether
gets
you
out
care,
there.
then it gets out there and they won't send you any more referrals.
All right. When we come back from break, I want you to tell me about what's the best time of year to buy and sell? And this is for anybody. You could already have 3, 4, 5, 10 houses, but when's the best time to buy a house or sell a house? And then we're going to talk some Philly politics, because that's off the chain. We'll be back in just a moment as we continue with this edition of News You Can Use.
Dude, did you catch yesterday's baseball game?
Yeah, that homer in the third, so awesome.
I know, I'm so excited for the game tomorrow.
Yeah, me too.
Crazy.
Hey, where are the guys?
I don't know, they always take forever.
Eat nothing but salad, and of course, the caramel macchiato from Starbucks every day. But I think I'm losing some serious weight. Steve. You're looking real good tonight, dude. Are you serious? I just feel a little vulnerable, but that coming from you, you're so perfect. So just thank you so much. Thanks, Steve. You ready to go? Yeah. We gotta take a pre-show selfie first. Of course. Jeez. Good stuff. Okay, all right. Yeah, I really feel like I'm losing some weight. You're looking thin, dude. Yeah, cubic cheese a day makes the weight go away. Wait, hold on. Here.
Finally, it took you guys so long.
Fix my hair.
Let's go, we're late.
LaSalle TV News, because the action never stops.
And here we go. We're back as we continue with Trent Pettis, who is an expert in real estate. He owns his own real estate company. It's called Integrity Real Estate. He's on Germantown Avenue, and he is the man. We, in the first segment, for those of you who just turned your television sets on, you missed it. We were talking about the housing foreclosure issue and the fact that things have calmed down a little bit from the last 3 or 4 years. Thank
absolutely.
God. I hate to see anybody lose their
Right.
home. But now we want to talk about when's a good time to buy and sell property anyway? I mean, is there a particular time of year that's better than other times of year?
Absolutely. This is what we call, right now we're in what we call a buyer's market, which just means that there are a lot of inventory, and when there's a lot of inventory, you generally get a better deal. And, but unfortunately, and the rates are down. We have historically low interest rates. I mean, and when it's a buyer's market, you generally get more concessions. Sellers are willing to give you more things. They're willing to maybe give you a home warranty. They may be willing to put in a new heater because the heater's bad. So this is a good time. This is absolutely a good time to buy. And I would say on the flip side, is not necessarily a good time to sell, because in a buyer's market, when you're selling, as I said, you're not going to get the price that you may want. It's probably going to be lower. The best time to sell is in a seller's market when there are a lot of buyers but very few sellers, which means that not only are you probably going to get the price that you're looking for, but in a seller's market, you may get multiple offers and they may be well above your asking price. And we've seen in a seller's market, I mean, I've listed properties and had 30 offers, and they went as high as 100,000 over what the seller was looking for. So now, actually, I remember in
Well, I know
Chestnut
that
Hill.
seller was happy.
Absolutely. I remember when I first got into real estate, when I first got licensed back in 2000, it was a house we listed in Chestnut Hill, and I want to say it was like 300,000 back then. And they got offers of about 500 up to like 550,000. I think it ended up selling for about 550. Because they had so many offers, and there were so many buyers competing for those very few properties that they just kept pushing the price up. So, is this a good time to buy? Absolutely. And I always say it's a good time to own real estate because it's the best investment you can make. Because with real estate, you actually use an investment. It's an investment that usually goes up in value, but you actually get to use it for shelter. If you bought a gold, for instance, you can't wear it, you can't sleep in it, you can't whatever investment, money market, IRA, you can't use that. But real estate is an investment that goes up in value, and you're able to use it. So I think it's an absolute best investment you can have for your family.
Let me throw another one in on you.
Yeah.
Sheriff sale properties.
Yes.
Let's say somebody says, well, I want to be a developer, or I want
Want an
to
investor.
own properties.
Right.
I want to get started, and I'm
Right.
going to start getting these cheap houses. Everybody thinks it's cheap.
Right.
Sheriff sale.
Yes.
Is that the right thinking? Or
It depends. If you're going to buy properties from a sheriff sale, one, you need to go down there and watch the process for a while. And the problem with the sheriff sale property, you can't go in it. So you don't know what you're getting. Sometimes there may not even be a house. You think there's a house, but there's not. You need to drive by, you need to look at it, and
I would be devastated if I thought I was buying a house, and then when I went by there,
it may be
there's
an empty
no
lot,
house.
or
Oh,
I mean, the
God.
house is probably, it could be crumbling. You don't know. It may
Right,
have no pipes, and I mean, you don't know. And there are people who think, my God, look at this house in Mount Airy for $50,000. That's a $300,000, $400,000
Now,
house.
my boss, who
Right.
buys properties all the time,
Right.
Allegheny West Foundation, he had me just last week calling down to the Commerce Department to have
Okay.
somebody check for him to see what's wrong with that property that's up for sheriff's sale, so that he would know before he went to the sheriff's sale. So I guess, and
But
I
that-
don't know that he has an inside
Well,
track.
he may, but if not, you need to do your research.
You need to do
That's the
homework,
point. You
yeah.
need to do your homework. Do your due diligence, because you got to at least go look at the property. You can't go in and look through the window,
right.
because you look through the window and you say, my God, there are holes all the way through the roof. You know, most of the people who buy through sheriff sale are savvy investors. They know how much they need to put in their property. They know the worst case scenario. They know what they can sell that property for. Let's say they say, okay, I can't go in it, but even if it's in the worst condition, I'm gonna spend, let's say, $30,000. But I'm buying 30 and I can sell it for 90. So I know there's still a profit margin. But there are people homeowners who they'll get tax refund, go buy a property in a sheriff sale and have no money to renovate it because it's not a property that's livable.
Right.
And so now
They
they have
got property sitting there that's looking
Right.
like an eyesore, getting
Right.
worse and worse.
or they're required to put money down when they win the bid, and then they don't have the money within 30 days to close. So there are all kinds of issues if you're not a savvy. If you're going to buy, I don't recommend it to people who aren't savvy investors. If you're a first-time home buyer, don't go through that
Yeah,
process.
yeah.
Come to a real estate agent and let him or her find you something that you can
Very
live in.
interesting.
Because
Okay.
you'll have the home inspection, you'll know what the problems are. Because sheriff sale property, you don't know what the issues. You don't know if the heating system works. Probably don't.
All right. So give us the phone number. If people want to talk to you more, if they want to know when you're doing some more of those fabulous workshops that you do for first-time home buyers, or just for people who want to know about purchasing houses in general, or need some help with a potential foreclosure issue, or they just want to get a good real estate agent to help them find the house that's for them.
Well, we're located at 6633 Germantown Avenue. That's at Germantown and Horter in Mount Airy. Our phone number is easy to remember, 215-849-1111. That's 215-849-1111. We're open from 10 to 6 Monday through Friday, and Saturdays from 10 to 1, and Sundays by appointment. But you can always call us. We have about 12 or 13 agents, and we'll be happy to assist you.
And if we go to your website, can we
It's-
see some of the properties
You
that you
can.
have listed?
It's Integrity Real Estate PA for Pennsylvania, integrityrealestatepa.com. We're also licensed in Delaware.
Go on, my brother.
And
Go on,
we're
my
about to
brother.
get licensed in
Go
Maryland.
ahead,
That's
go
the
ahead.
next.
I'm so proud of you. I don't know what to do. Now, before we run out of time, real quick, the political picture for Philadelphia right now. Well, we know we're coming up on November
Right.
election. We've
Absolutely.
got two Toms running. We've
Toms.
got our current
Tom Corbett and Tom
Governor
Wolf,
Tom Corbett
right.
and Tom Wolf is running, and they say that Wolf is like 26 points ahead of Corbett
Right.
in the polls right
Right.
now. So that's kind of interesting. That's
Right.
one thing, and we hope people will come out and vote, because
Absolutely.
every election is critical and
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely.
But then we've got a number of politicians who have like the weight of the world on their shoulders,
Right.
because there's been indictments and suggestions of indictments, and
Right.
some politicians who recently got out of jail and some who may well be going soon. What are you thinking?
I think, well, first of all, I believe everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And I know we've heard some video tapes and we've seen some stuff. Some things don't look good. And I think that for politicians who are betraying the public's trust, they ought to step down. And they ought to be punished like you and I would if we accepted bribes. Or did something that was illegal. We would be punished, and we ought to. But I think that I think a politician to betray the public's trust is so bad to me, because it's almost like a police officer. You're there to, protect and serve, and when you sidestep that and you do the wrong thing, it's harder to come back, and it's tough. And I think that whatever you did, if you're found guilty, you ought to be punished. And it's too many politicians out there who are really good. You and I both know a lot of them, and who work hard and play by the rules. So I believe that is more of a fluke than
crazy.
Right. But
Crazy.
if you're doing things that you ought not be doing, one, I think you ought to step down, and two, you ought to be punished.
Trent Pettis, I thank you so much for being with me, for being my guest,
welcome.
for being
You're
my
welcome.
friend,
Love you.
and sharing all of your expertise with us. Love you back and love you better, okay? We're going to head on over to the other set right now, because Dr. Donnie Patterson, she stands by from Einstein Medical Center. One of her colleagues is with her, and they've got some health information to share.
We're going to talk to you today about a condition called gastroesophageal reflux disease, or GERD. Some people call it indigestion. Millions of people suffer from gastroesophageal reflux disease. We're not just talking about mild indigestion that some people have. We're talking about people that have these conditions that cause a significant distress in their life. I have here with me my colleague, Dr. Sloan, and he's going to tell us some of the symptoms associated with it and quickly some of the treatments.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Patterson, and thank you for having me. So, gastroesophageal reflux disease, as Dr. Patterson mentioned, is very common. Some of the symptoms that you can experience would be heartburn, regurgitation. Other symptoms that you might experience would be belching, increasing abdominal pain, a bad taste in the back of your mouth, and occasionally you can have chest pains. Now, I would mention that if you are having chest pains, it is important to follow up with your physician, your primary care physician, to make sure that this isn't related to anything having to do with the heart. When it comes to treatment, there are some things that you can do at home. One thing would be to increase the head of the bed or raise the head of the bed. Another thing is to avoid eating 2 to 3 hours before going to sleep and laying down in bed. Those are two simple things that may help reduce your symptoms. Other things that you may try are some over-the-counter medications, Zantac being one of those medications. However, I would also like to say that if you are experiencing symptoms that are significant, it's always important to follow up with your primary care physician and potentially a gastroenterologist to further evaluate these symptoms and perhaps try a prescription medication.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Sloan. And so as always, we want to encourage you to be healthy and not ignore your symptoms. If you need a doctor, you can call 1-800-EINSTEIN or go on the website, and that's www.einstein.edu. And I'm Dr. Donnie, and I wish you the best of health, but if you can't be the best, you can be better. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Donnie Patterson and Dr. Sloan, thank you so much for the health information. Again, to Trent Pettis, thank you for sharing with us about housing and all that good stuff. And to you, our viewing audience, thank you for checking us out. LaSalle University, thank you for having us back for another year with news you can use. And make sure you keep your dial locked right here. We've got great programming 24/7. Have a great day, everybody.